Ritvik, can I ask you something?
As if I'm going to say no and you will stop. You're going to ask anyways. So, yes, Gayatri, what's your question?
When you look at the world today, does it ever feel like everything is happening at once, but somehow completely separately? A forest in Nagaland, a heat wave in Delhi, a boardroom in Brussels, and your neighbor who still leaves the tap running.
My neighbor specifically? Because that's a very targeted example. But yes, it does feel that way. Like 1,000 different fires, sometimes literally with no obvious thread connecting them.
Except there is a thread. Every forest, every heat wave, every policy, every decision, and every small daily habit, it's all a part of one interconnected system that shapes how we live and what we will face in the future.
Which is either deeply reassuring or absolutely terrifying, depending on the day, and the weather forecast, and whether your city is currently underwater.
And that is exactly what this episode is about. Understanding those connections more clearly. A new species discovered in the forests of Nagaland, extreme heat affecting families in Delhi, global industries affecting the climate pressure, all of it tells a larger story about change, survival, and balance.
These aren't just updates from different corners of the world. They're signals, ones that show how closely human life is tied to the environment and how a decision made in one place can ripple across ecosystems, economies, and communities thousands of kilometers away.
So, as we go through today's stories, we're not just asking what happened, we're asking why it matters, how it connects, and what it reveals about the world we are living in right now.
Which, to be clear, is the only world we have got. So it's worth paying attention to. No pressure, just, everything.
All of which to say is that you listeners are in exactly the right place. This is EarthWise or Otherwise, a weekly climate news roundup brought to you by Climate Action Live in collaboration with the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication.
Every week, we bring you climate stories from around the world, along with people's voices, cultural reflections, and small actions that we can every day take in our daily lives.
I'm Gayatri, and this show exists because the planet deserves at least as much as our attention as our group chats do. Well, arguably more.
And I am Ritvik. Two perspectives but one shared concern, the combined anxiety about the environment that we've decided to turn into a podcast. This is EarthWise or Otherwise.
Because the real question isn't just what being EarthWise looks like.
It is also what the cost of choosing otherwise might just be.
Alright, let's get into it. Time for our weekly national climate check-in, where we break down what's happening across India.
From policy shifts to ground level impact, here's everything you need to know about the country's changing climate story. And trust us, there is a lot going on. There always is.
Scientists in Nagaland have discovered a brand new species of Cascade Frog, adding another exciting chapter to India's biodiversity story. The frog has been named Amalpus kamal and was found near Singrap village in Kifayur district by researchers from the Zoological Survey of India. What makes this species particularly fascinating is that it belongs to the Amalpus group. Frogs specifically adapted to live around fast-flowing streams and waterfalls.
Exactly, Gayatri. These frogs are built for that kind of environment. They'll survive on wet rocks, steep slopes, and strong steam currents, which makes them incredibly unique. Researchers say that this newly identified species is genetically and physically different from the previously known frogs.
The discovery is important because it reminds us how little we still know about the wildlife hidden in India's forests. Nagaland, especially in the eastern Himalayan region, still continues to be one of India's richest biodiversity hotspots.
And discoveries like these are not just exciting for science, they're important for conservation too. Protecting these freshwater habitats becomes even more urgent when we realize that species living there may exist nowhere else in the world.
It also highlights how scientific exploration is still ongoing in regions we often think are already well understood. Every field has the potential to completely change what we know about biodiversity.
But, Gayatri, it also raises a warning. Many such ecosystems are fragile and can easily be disrupted. Without strong conservation efforts, species could disappear before they are even documented.
Well, the call to action to this is that every new species discovered is a reminder that nature still holds the stories we still haven't heard yet. But if we don't protect these ecosystems now, many of those stories could just disappear from before they're even found.
Well, lastly, conservation begins with awareness. The more we value our biodiversity, not just as a science, but as a life, the stronger our responsibility becomes to protect it for the future generations.
Moving from forests to food, India's summer's favorite fruit, the ice apple, is getting attention for more than just its taste. Known as tadgora or palm fruit, depending on the region, is often seen as a refreshing street-side summer snack.
Ice apple is naturally packed with water, minerals, electrolytes, and natural sugars, which makes it incredibly useful during peak summer. It helps the body stay hydrated and cool during extreme heat.
What's interesting is how this fruit has always been a part of India's traditional summer diet. Long before packaged drinks, people relied on seasonal fruits like this to naturally cope up with the heat.
And beyond health, it has cultural value. It is tied to everyday life, memory, and local food systems across many regions in India.
This largely shows how traditional knowledge often develops in response to environmental needs. Food habits are not just cultural, they're also adaptive in systems built over generations.
In a time of rising temperatures, revisiting these natural local foods could actually be a part of building something more sustainable and climate friendly.
Well, the call to action to this is sometimes climate resilience doesn't come from technology alone. It largely comes from tradition. From the foods we eat, the seasons we follow, and the knowledge communities have carried for generations.
Supporting local seasonal produce is also a way of supporting sustainability. Maybe the solutions to living better with our changing climate are already around us. We just need to pay closer attention, perhaps. Right, Gayatri?
A powerful report from The Guardian has brought attention to how brutal Delhi's summer heat has become, especially for those with no shelter. The report follows Shahida, a young mother living under a flyover in Delhi.
With no permanent home or reliable access to water and shade, the family spends each day trying to survive extreme temperatures, which are already crossing 43 degrees Celsius.
What makes this situation even harder is that the heat doesn't disappear at night. The environment itself continues to trap the heat, making rest almost impossible.
The story also reflects a larger reality. Climate change is affecting people unevenly, with the most vulnerable facing the harshest consequences.
It also exposes how urban infrastructure is not designed to protect people in extreme weather conditions. Cities are becoming hotter faster than they are becoming adaptable.
And without intervention, heat waves will continue to turn into humanitarian crisis and not just weather events.
The call to action to this is extreme weather doesn't affect everyone equally. And that's what makes these stories really urgent. Climate conversations must include those who are most exposed to its worst effects.
Protecting vulnerable lives is not optional. It is central to climate justice and human dignity.
Ritvik, a quick question. Is it raining where you are?
No. The monsoon is doing its classic dramatic delay. But why do you ask?
Well, the monsoons may not have shown up yet, but climate jobs certainly have. It is absolutely raining opportunities this week. And honestly, I take this forecast any day.
Ha! No complaints here. Alright, let's get into it. Welcome everyone to our brand new segment, Green Gigs. your weekly climate jobs and opportunities segment. Whether you are a researcher, a policy nerd, a finance person, or someone who just really loves the idea of saving the planet and paying rent, this one's for you.
First up, for anyone looking to get their foot in the door, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has a National Renewable Energy Internship opened with rolling applications. It is an on-site in New Delhi, and you'd be supporting research, policy, and project work directly under MNRE. Very legit and very exciting.
Rolling applications is what they do, which means apply now, not I'll do it next week. We know how that goes.
Now, CEEW, the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, has two really interesting roles. One is a research analyst at AFOLU and Climate, which is agriculture, forest, and other land use for those who aren't already fluent in climate acronyms.
And the other one? Well, product manager for AI and climate tech. So, if you are someone who exists at the intersection of like machine learning and mangroves, CEEW is calling for your name. Both are rolling applications and both are in New Delhi.
Machine learning and mangroves, that's the most 2025 sentence I've heard all week.
Now, here's one that may surprise many people. Climate Policy Initiative, or CPI, is hiring an accounts payable associate. And look, I know what you're thinking. That's just finance job. But no, this is climate finance. Someone has to make sure the invoices get paid so the forests don't get cut down. This is very important work.
Climate can use all kinds of people. If you love spreadsheets and the planet, please go apply. Rolling applications, Delhi, on-site.
Okay, so now two big ones. The Reroute Asia Fellowship by Animal Alliance Asia is for emerging leaders working on grassroots sustainability, advocacy, and system change across Asia. It is fully remote, global, and applications close on the June 20th.
If that sounds like you or someone in your orbit, do not sleep on it. June 20th comes very fast.
And finally, the WRI India is looking for a head of research, strategy and knowledge, senior role sitting in the CEO's office, shaping high-impact climate and policy work. Hybrid anywhere in India. Applications open. If that's you or someone you know, please send this over to them right now.
Genuinely an incredible opportunity. All links are in our show notes and across our social media handles. So, go find them.
And if these 6 aren't enough, head over to climateaction.live. Free, searchable, and packed with way more listings than we can cover here.
And for weekly updates just like this, follow us on all our socials at Climate Action Live. That's where the freshest gigs land first. We'll keep raining them down on you. Monsoon or no monsoon.
Alright, that's a wrap on green gigs. Go apply, go share, and go save the world. And maybe also pay your rent while you're at it. Both are important.
And that's India's climate story for the week. But as we always say, climate doesn't really do borders. So, let's zoom out. Here's what the rest of the world has been up to. Canada's wildfire season has once again returned to the oil sands region of northern Alberta, with multiple active fires burning dangerously close to major energy producing facilities. The situation has raised concerns among local authorities, energy companies, and nearby communities, as dry weather conditions and rising temperatures continue to create a highly vulnerable fire environment across the region. What was once considered a seasonal risk is now becoming a more persistent and an unpredictable challenge.
At least 7 wildfires have been reported in areas surrounding key oil operations, including sites managed by major companies involved in Canada's energy production sector. Although oil output has not yet been significantly disrupted, the proximity of these fires to critical infrastructures has been made the situation highly intensive and sensitive, with constant monitoring and precautionary measures being implemented to reduce potential damage.
These fires are particularly significant because the oil sand regions is one of the most important contributors to Canada's energy economy. Any disruption in this area has the potential to affect national energy supply chains, global oil markets, and the livelihoods of workers and communities who depend on the industry. This makes wildfires management not only an environmental concern, but also an economic and a strategic priority.
These experts warn that climate change is playing a major role in increasing both the frequency and intensity of wildfire seasons in Canada and other parts of the world. Rising global temperatures, prolonged dry spells, and shifting weather patterns are creating conditions where fires ignite more easily and spread more rapidly, turning what were once isolated incidents into recurring large-scale crises.
The situation has also highlighted how deeply industrial systems and natural ecosystems are now interconnected. Energy infrastructure, which relies on stable environmental conditions, is now increasingly being affected by unpredictable climate-driven events, showing that environmental change is no longer external to the industry, but is directly embedded within it.
And it raises serious questions about long-term resilience in energy infrastructure under growing climate stress. As extreme weather events become more common, industries are being forced to rethink how they plan, build, and operate in environments that are becoming less stable over time.
The call to action to this is wildfires are no longer isolated natural disasters. They can happen occasionally and independently. They are a part of a repeating climate pattern that demands urgent preparation, long-term planning, and coordinated global response. Ignoring these warnings only increases vulnerability in the future.
Delaying climate action only increases the scale of future damage, both environmentally and economically. Building resilience now is not optional. It is necessary to prevent even greater risks in the years ahead.
A report by Earth.org highlights a critical and often overlooked question in the global fashion industry's climate commitments. Who actually bears the real cost of achieving net zero? While major fashion brands frequently announce ambitious sustainability targets and climate-neutral goals, the article examines what happens behind the scenes where these promises are actually implemented. It reveals that the visible progress in branding often hides a much more complicated and an unequal system of responsibility.
Most of the burden falls on garment manufacturers in developing countries such as Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Indonesia, who are expected to adopt cleaner technologies and reduce emissions without receiving enough financial or structural support. These factories are often required to upgrade machinery, shift to renewable energy sources, and improve environmental standards while still meeting strict production deadlines and cost limits set by the global brands.
The challenges that these factories face are already operating under extremely tight margins. They face constant pressure to produce large volumes of clothing at low costs, which leaves very little flexibility to invest in expensive sustainability upgrades. Even when the environmental improvements are introduced, they are often done under financial strain, making long-term change difficult to sustain.
This creates a system where environment responsibility is unevenly distributed across the supply chain. While brands benefit from protecting sustainability to consumers, the actual costs often get pushed down to the supplier's end. And in many cases, indirectly, it affects workers through wage pressure, job insecurity, and reduced investment in workplace conditions.
It also exposes how global supply chains tend to separate responsibility from accountability. Decisions made by multinational fashion companies are implemented thousands of kilometers away, where those carrying out productions have limited influence over pricing, timelines, or sustainability expectations. This disconnect makes it harder to ensure fairness in how climate action is actually carried out.
Without deeper structural change, sustainability risks becoming more symbolic than practical. If the climate goals are achieved only through shifting costs rather than sharing responsibility, then the system may appear greener on the surface while remaining unequal at its core.
The call to action to this is that true sustainability cannot exist unless fairness is built into every stage of production. Climate responsibility must be shared across brands, manufacturers, governments, and financial systems rather than concentrated in one part of the chain.
At the same time, consumers also play an important role in shaping this system. The choices we make and the transparency we demand can influence how industries behave, making accountability a shared responsibility rather than a distant concept.
A feature in The Guardian explores why being outdoors in nature holds deep emotional meaning for people across very different walks of life. Through personal stories shared by readers, the article highlights how simple natural spaces like parks, gardens, forests, beaches, and open fields often become places where people feel most grounded and emotionally safe. It shows that nature is not just a background setting in our lives, but something that actively shapes how we feel and process the world around us.
Many people describe nature as a space for healing, calm, and emotional relief during stressful or overwhelming times. Whether someone is dealing with grief, anxiety, burnout, or just the pressure of daily routines, stepping outside often creates a sense of pause that is difficult to find elsewhere. The article suggests that even short moments in natural surroundings can help slow down thoughts and reduce emotional overload.
It also reconnects people with memory, childhood, and a sense of simplicity that often gets lost in adulthood. Many stories mention how nature brings back the feeling of freedom, running outside as a child, sitting under trees, or simply observing seasonal changes. These experiences create a sense of continuity between past and present, making nature feel familiar and deeply personal.
Beyond personal experiences, research also supports this emotional connection. Studies have consistently shown that spending time in nature can reduce stress levels, lower anxiety, and improve concentration, and support overall physical health. Even exposure to green spaces in urban environments has been linked to better mental health, well-being, and emotional stability over time.
This suggests that our connection to the nature is not something optional or occasional. It is a part of how humans are naturally designed to function. The article highlights that when this connection weakens through long hours, indoors, or digital dependence, people often experience higher stress and emotional fatigue. Nature, in that sense, acts as a necessary reset for both the mind and the body.
And as modern life becomes more digital, fast-paced, and screen-driven, protecting this connection becomes even more important. The more time we spend disconnected from natural environments, the more risk we are doing and losing a simple but essential source of balance, reflection, and calm.
The call to action to this is even small, intentional moments outdoors like a short walk, sitting in a park, or simply noticing natural surroundings can help restore mental clarity and emotional balance. It does not require major changes in lifestyle, only awareness and presence.
At the same time, protecting natural spaces ensures that this connection remains available for future generations. Preserving green areas is not just about the environment, it is also about protecting the human well-being itself.
As we close this episode, what stays with us is the way all these stories, whether from forests, cities, industries, or personal lives, are deeply interconnected. None of them exist in isolation, and none of them can be fully understood without looking at the larger system they are a part of.
From newly discovered species to climate stress in cities, from global industries to personal well-being, everything ultimately connects back to how we interact with the environment and with each other.
And maybe the most important takeaway is that awareness itself is the starting point of change. The more we understand these links, the more responsible our choices become.
Change doesn't always begin with big actions. It begins with attention, understanding, and care. And with every choice, we pick a direction, either walking with the planet or choosing to ignore it.
This conversation is made possible by Climate Action Live, a youth-driven platform by Mother Singh that takes climate awareness beyond conversations and connects it to real-world action. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Climate Action Live newsletter, the link is in the show notes.
At its core, Climate Action Live creates space for young voices where learning, dialogue, and action come together.
If you want to be a part of this movement, visit the Climate Action Live website and explore how you can contribute.
You can also check out the New Imaginations Research Center at the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication, which works with young scholars to expand stories and perspectives, helping us understand climate and society through new narratives.
So, until next week, when we meet again,
keep asking yourself, are you choosing to be EarthWise
or otherwise?